SEKHMET, the ancient Egyptian goddess of war. Her name deriving from the word for powerful, or mighty, SEKHMET was one of the most prominent goddesses in the Egyptian pantheon. According to myth, SEKHMET, a goddess of war and healing, could both spread disease and cure it, and more widely wield extreme destruction or award protection. SEKHMET is most commonly depicted as a lioness, or a woman with the head of a lion, and her image was commonly used as battle insignia as both a leader in warfare and protector of pharaohs. Both highly feared and celebrated, she is sometimes referred to in Egyptian texts as she before whom evil trembles, the mistress of dread, the Mauler, or the Lady of Slaughter. Ra, the ancient Egyptian sun god, became angry because humanity wasn't following his laws and preserving Ma'at, balance or justice. As punishment, he sent an aspect of his daughter, the Eye of Ra, to Earth in the form of a lion. The result was SEKHMET, who devastated Earth. She had a taste for blood and flooded the world with it. However, Ra was not a cruel god, and the sight of the carnage made him regret his decision and order SEKHMET to stop. SEKHMET's bloodlust was so strong that she wouldn't listen, until Ra poured 7,000 jugs of beer and pomegranate juice that looked like into her path. SEKHMET gorged blood, and the blood, so much that she became drunk and slept for 3 days. When she awoke, her bloodlust was sated and humanity was saved. SEKHMET was the wife of Ptah, the god of artisans, and the mother of lotus god Nefertum. In Egyptian art, SEKHMET is typically depicted as a woman with the head of a lioness. Sometimes her skin is painted green just like Osiris, god of the underworld. She carries the Ankh of life, though when shown sitting or standing she normally holds a scepter made of papyrus, which suggests that she was primarily associated with the north. Some scholars have suggested that she originated from Sudan due to there being more lions. She normally has a long-stemmed lotus flower on her right hand, and her head is crowned by a large solar disk, which demonstrates that she is related to the sun god Ra, and a uraeus, a serpent form associated with the Egyptian pharaohs. SEKHMET's fearsome reputation led to her being adopted as a military patron by many Egyptian pharaohs, since she was said to breathe fire against the enemies of Egypt. For instance, the powerful pharaoh Ramesses II wore the image of SEKHMET, and in friezes that depict the Battle of Kadesh, she is depicted as riding Ramesses' horse and scorching the bodies of enemies with her flames. At a statue erected for her at the Mut Temple, Karnak, Egypt, she is described as the smiter of Nubians. During military campaigns, hot desert winds were said to be her breath, and after each battle, celebrations were held for her as a way of appeasing her and stopping her cycle of destruction. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, SEKHMET is described as a keeper of cosmic balance, Ma'at. However, sometimes striving for this balance led to her adopting extreme policies such as introducing plagues, which were referred to as messengers, or slaughterers, of SEKHMET. It was also said that she visited disease upon those individuals who angered her. As such, her nicknames the Lady of Pestilence, and Red Lady, allude not only to her plague-making but to blood and red desert land. Though SEKHMET could visit disasters upon those who angered her, she could also avert plague and cure diseases for her friends. As the patron of physicians and healers, when in a calmer state she would take on the form of the household cat goddess Bastet. An ancient epithet reads that she was the mistress of life. Her ability for healing was so valued that Amenhotep III had hundreds of SEKHMET statues made to place in his funerary temple in the western bank near Thebes as a means of protecting him in the afterlife. SEKHMET was also sometimes reported to have been the mother of an obscure lion god called Mahaz, who was a patron and protector of the pharaoh, while other texts state that the pharaoh himself was conceived by SEKHMET. A festival of intoxication was held every year to soothe the wildness of the goddess and replicate the drunkenness that stopped SEKHMET's bloodlust when she almost destroyed humanity. The festival may have also coincided with averting excessive flooding during the beginning of every year, when the Nile appeared blood-red with the silt from upstream. Thousands of amulets and other archaeological items depict SEKHMET, either seated or standing and holding a papyrus-shaped scepter. But what comes to mind for most Egyptian art lovers are the hundreds of larger granodiorite statues of SEKHMET carved during the 18th dynasty rule of the great pharaoh Amenhotep III. These statues are now found in museums and archaeological sites. Her name, the Powerful One, is best illustrated by her fearful appearance as a lion-headed woman. The sun disk above her head reminds us she was the defender of the sun, and the uraeus raising at her forehead marks her as the royal daughter of Ra. Sekhmet also carries a papyrus scepter and the Ankh sign in her hands, which represent her capacity to give life and fertility through the yearly Nile floods in Egypt. These attributes and her iconography sometimes make Sekhmet difficult to differentiate from other feline goddesses, mainly Bastet. They are all aspects of the same entity, Hathor, as declared in inscriptions of many statues. There are over 700 statues of Sekhmet. French Egyptologist Jean Yoyote proposed a convincing theory that this group of statues was the stone materialization of a Sekhmet ritual to pacify the goddess, neutralize her fearful aspects and attract her beneficial qualities. Yet in an age when aesthetics were critical to worship, even Amenhotep III, the king who ordered the statues, does not display a similar number of effigies. If such a large number of statues were mentioned only in texts, Egyptologists likely would not believe they existed. But the proof resides in museums worldwide and in the ruins of Mut's temple in Karnak. On the Nile's other bank, excavations led by Horag Surujan revealed another large series of Sekhmet statues around the solar court of Qam el-Hetan. The amount of large statues demonstrates a royal commitment to many trained sculptors. The size and quality of the sculptures is striking, given that smaller effigies might have accomplished the same goal. Although the size and proportions vary slightly, these hundreds of statues precisely render a wild feline expression and details such as mustaches, radiant hair, wig strands, nipple flowers and bracelets on the wrists and ankles. In the Amarna period, the name of Amenhotep III was systematically erased from inscriptions of the thrones of Sekhmet's statues, then methodically re-inscribed at the end of the 18th dynasty. With their original viewing perhaps meant to be limited, several of the statues were moved, re-displayed in various temples and sometimes re-inscribed. Notably for Ramses IV and Shashank I, these reuses probably represent a re-actualization of these ancient images in another architectural and cultic context. Sekhmet's statues were even re-displayed without being finished or inscribed, as in the Temple of Ptah in Karnak, where the standing statues of Sekhmet were found. It is notable that Egyptian statues did not need to be completed to serve a purpose. Many Sekhmets left uninscribed, unpolished or without carved details have been found with complete statues, which suggests that the two types were considered to carry the same level of effectiveness. It is rare to find statues that are in a complete state. For various reasons, most were attacked at some point in history. Some show lines of deep and regular tool marks made with hard metal chisels, probably to cut them into blocks for new building. Most, however, display systematic mutilations of specific parts, indicating the damage was not a random accident or demolition. The statues were seen as magical and needed to be subdued by removing or damaging the head and hands. The statues of Sekhmet will always have an important role in the statues of the Egyptian landscape.